Welcome to Real Estate Coaching Radio, starring award-winning real estate coaches and #1 international best-selling authors, Tim and Julie Harris. Real Estate Coaching Radio is the nation's #1 daily radio show for realtors who demand authentic, real-time coaching. Get ready for fluff-free, unfiltered, full-strength honesty about what's truly working to get you into action, helping others, and making money now in today's real estate market. Now to our hosts, Tim and Julie Harris.
3, 2, 1, and we're back. Julie, it is March the 2nd, and can you believe it is now? We're into the third month of 2021, and I have good news for you.
What's that?
By this time last year, there was rumors of a pandemic that was spreading. Do you remember?
I know.
We were in Amelia Island, Florida, basically.
We were. That's right.
Yep.
It was right before our birthday week.
And people were starting to freak out. And I remember nobody knew what was going on. The news was just starting to break about a pandemic. What's a pandemic? Will it ever, what are the ramifications? Everything was up in the air. And we were in Amelia Island, Florida, and there was a high density of, it was a big car concours thing. And everything was, moving along, but there was this undercurrent of uncertainty, and you could tell some people were starting to really get emotionally kind of,
It was very uncomfortable.
It was.
It was just starting to work. People hadn't worked out. I don't think people were masking yet, actually. And people hadn't really worked out the whole fist bump thing. You weirdos were doing like ankle bumps and all kinds of strangeness. But it was awkward. That was our last trip before, everything kind of hit the fan.
Have you ever noticed that weirdos, generally speaking, like to,
congregate at car shows?
No. Well, yes. But no, I was going to say they like to ankle bump with you. I mean, I don't know what about you that has that. You have that weirdo
That's just
ankle.
with you.
Yeah. Oh, is that it? Okay. Well, so today we are going to answer some questions that we've been receiving. And what Julie and I look for is we look for what we call question trends. This is the United States, maybe the world's largest, probably is the world's largest daily podcast for real estate professionals. We estimate there's something like 20 million agents in the world. There's over 2 million agents in the United States, something like 1.3 million or something that are members of the National Association of Realtors. But we're here to tell you with 100% certainty that those numbers globally for active real estate professionals or those seeking to become real estate professionals, but they have real estate licenses and they're learning how to be professionals is probably a better way of saying it, more honest way of saying it. It's going to explode. And we're seeing signs from every corner of the real estate industry that the number of people that are getting into the business, like I said, is really going to multiply over the next really 6 to 12 months. As a lot of people have their pre-licensing done and they're, trying to get their state tests scheduled, and California has pushed out a year and all these different things. But as the pandemic starts to, ebb, we are going to see more and more places opening up and more new licensees. And so it's incredibly important for those of you who are already in the business to understand that a lot of the people getting into the business, they were gainfully employed. In some cases, they were gainfully employed in managerial or really senior sales roles. So they're going to be approaching real estate. And we're seeing this in our podcast questions. We're seeing this in our coaching members. We have, guys, in the 20 years Julie and I have been in the coaching and training industry for real estate agents and selling real estate ourselves, I have never seen this many non-licensees joining our coaching program. And that's exceptional. I mean, occasionally you'd see something like that. We didn't really meter it that closely, but now I'm hearing from our new member coaches that a lot of non-licensees are joining. And why? Because they're anticipating getting into real estate and they want to hit the ground running. So this is kind of, I think, maybe a notice to all of you who have maybe been a little bit complacent on your sales skills, that the tides are quickly going to change as more professional people or more professionally minded people enter into the industry. So you better get your skills on. So, Julie, before we get to your questions, I was on our Clubhouse event this morning, which thank you for participating, by the way.
Sure.
And, guys, it's called Real Estate Masterclass, and it's Real Estate Masterclass Mindset, Motivation, and Money. If you want to join us, it starts at 8 a.m. East Coast time. And one of the questions I posed to our large group today is, what would you, if you had to take 5 listings in the next 2 weeks? Were you on it when I asked that question?
Yes, I was on the second half after you already asked it.
Right. So it ran for 2 hours today. We run as long, and we have other moderators that'll pick up the ball when Julie and I have to bounce off the event. But the question that I posed to the group, and it was a great conversation, was, if you had to take 5 listings in 2 weeks, or you'd lose your house, and you don't want to lose your house, right?
There's the motivation.
There's a motivation. How would you do it? And what I was really thrilled about is not all these people were Harrisites, right? Not all of them were Harris coaching clients or podcast listeners. Some of these people are just people that are from our EXP group, but they're not real studied on Julie and I's philosophy of how to build a long-term, ever-increasingly profitable real estate practice. So they weren't trying to placate us with their answers, but and some of them were deeply rooted in the whole, passive marketing realm of the real estate world, where, you're in essence buying your leads through branding and social networking and all that. But when I posed the question to some of these even people that are diehards against actual being proactive prospectors, they all said the same thing. They pick up the phone. And I thought that was so awesome that they're frankly honest, because it is. You guys get the significance of that. So I'm going to ask all of you podcast listeners, tens of thousands of you listening, if you had to take 5 listings the next 2 weeks or you'd lose your house, how would you do it? And here's maybe a way of framing that if you're trying to come up with your answer, is what would you stop doing?
Yeah.
And that was, I thought, a really good discussion on our Clubhouse event today, because it really did cut through the BS.
It's a great question.
It is
a great question. You know what's funny, because we've done that before, is that everybody knows what to do. A lot of times people will kind of seem like, I'm out floating in the wind. I don't have any direction. I'm not following any kind of plan. And then you ask them, if it was between keeping your house and losing your house, what would you do to get 5 listings in the next 2 weeks? Like that, they have the answer in most cases.
But you know what's really interesting too? All of that. But normally, if, for example, the 2 week. So why did I frame the question like that, guys? Is because everyone is more motivated by losing something they already have than motivated by, say, trying to win an award or a prize or whatnot. So if you're looking really to create motivation in yourself, where you think about where you're the most motivated, it's always when you're fearful of losing something you already have. So why don't you everyone's like that, by the way.
Much more motivational.
Totally.
I mean, look at how people act when, they get into some kind of financial hiccup, whether that's a surprise tax bill or a surprise, medical bill. All of a sudden, you find your motivation.
So that is the reason I framed the question that way. So I want you guys to feel the fear of losing something you already have, because innate in that fear is going to be, after the initial surge of fear hits you, is going to be the resolution, and your mind becomes myopic with its essentially its solution. Your mind instantly goes to what the truth is. Which is basically you're going to essentially be a proactive lead generator. So even the most diehard passive, marketing, branding types that are frequenting our Clubhouse events, they immediately dropped all of that Mickey Mouse, and they went to, I'm going to get in front of as many people as I possibly can. I'm going to pick up the phone. I'm going to call. I'm going to absolutely be the best pre-qualifier ever.
Yeah, it's like you miraculously find that honed-in skill set, and it's yes, I think the most important thing is being proactive lead generator, but there's other things that come along with that they have that light bulb reignite, like, answer the phone when people call you. Don't send everybody to voicemail. Don't have never-ending lead follow-up. Actually be on top of your lead follow-up, because, the first thing they do is go through their list of people that would be, quote, easier to convert to a listing, right? Well, why aren't you doing that normally? So all of those good habits come to light when you dial up the fear factor.
So there was another faction on our Clubhouse this morning who are dyed-in-the-wool, centers of influence. I'll never pick up the phone. I'll never do anything proactive. I want to basically, amiable the world, and eventually the leads will flow my way. Okay, so the question was, again, if you had to take 5 listings in 2 weeks, how would you do it? So even the most amiable, dyed-in-the-wool centers of influence and past client types who are just going to friend and bond and relationship the person to death, they too knew what their correct
and why
answer
is
was.
That?
Well, it's because when you go the path of being, essentially centers of influence and past clients, where you're just going to drip love on them all day, there's no guarantee you're actually going to generate a lead.
That's the rub, right?
That is the rub.
You can't say without a shadow of a doubt that you would get 5 listings in the next 2 weeks.
Right.
Now, you may very well, okay, if you've been really good at it for a really long time, you've got enough people, and you've been very consistent, maybe, but probably not. It's not predictable or duplicatable. That does not mean you shouldn't be doing it. It just means that it's not predictable and duplicatable.
I have to say, Julie, as I'm looking at you have your premier coaching session that's right after this on Facebook Live, and you're wearing metallic lipstick. That is going to look hilarious on Facebook Live. Do not change it.
Okay.
Okay. I want him to think that you've been having too many oranges or something.
Because it's a little bit,
It's
a different color.
It's the reflective nature of Puerto Rico and your personality.
Yes, but it's light color.
As your birthday is coming up next week.
Indeed.
Well, so that's the thing, is that you know the truth. You know what you're supposed to do. Now, some of you are going to be newer agents or inexperienced agents with regards to listing properties. And so you're thinking, well, there's some sort of like Tower of Modor you have to climb up, and you have to pass through some sort of, throw some, golden ring into the fire pits of, what I'm saying here? I'm trying to make you guys laugh. But the reality of it is you can be a buyer's agent the second you get a listing agent the second you get your real estate license. There's no rule anywhere, no market forces anywhere that are telling you that you have to suffer, especially in this market. I mean, in the literal sense, working with buyers in this market is an act of futility in many cases. So if you want to ensure your success the fastest, learn how to be a listing agent. And everyone on our clubhouse knew it.
Yes, absolutely. I had a great comment from one of our Facebook Live Premier Coaching members, I think it was Friday, and he said, I haven't been licensed that long, but I do have an active listing. I'm really working it hard. I'm getting open house leads, and I'm sure it's going to sell this weekend. And I'm seeing, this was from a really new agent's perspective. He said, I'm seeing what the buyer agents are going through. I am always going to be a listing agent. Yep. It's like from the get-go, he recognizes that, maybe because he's been listening to the podcast, whatever, but he now that he's in it, he's very much seeing the difference because, buyer agents are pretty clear that is physical labor right now and mental labor. You guys are having to deal with more mental labor than ever before. And being a listing agent is more of a mental skill.
It's a skill-based thing.
Yes.
Right. So anyway, that was a fun experience for me.
Yeah.
Of course, I was hoping that some people would try to dig their heels in and argue that centers of influence and past clients or marketing or branding was the course to take if you wanted 5 listings in 2 weeks. But all of them knew the truth.
Yeah.
And I just think that's really fascinating.
Well, and again, we're not preaching against that. We're just saying it's 5 listings in 2 weeks. That's different when you put a time frame on it.
And of course, the challenge I laid down to everyone is take 5 listings in 2 weeks. And then the secondary question, though I didn't pose this, would be, what then do you have to stop doing? Mm-hmm. And basically, for most of them, it was they'd have to stop doing pretty much all the goofiness that they know is goofiness that they're doing.
The time-wasting stuff.
To try to convince themselves that they're actually in real estate working, creating leads and working on their branding. They know exactly what they were supposed to do. They were just waiting for permission, shall I say, for someone to suggest that they actually do it. Because guys, the ramifications of taking 5 listings, maybe it's not 2 weeks, maybe it's a month, that could set your year up. That could set your years up.
Especially when you can do it.
Right, that's the thing.
Everything changes when you figure out that you do have that power.
And so I hope none of you are in a situation where you have to be fearful of losing your house if you don't take 5 listings in 2 weeks. But at the same time, everyone, at least mentally, psychologically, you have to accept the fact that would be the greatest blessing that you could actually fall prey to, because that would create massive motivation, and your brain's instant reaction would just be to filter all the Mickey Mouse that you guys spend so much time doing every single day. So we are, by the way, before we get to our first point, Julie, and the first question is...
Okay, so we're doing some things from our mailbag, which is the combination of text, emails, etc. And keep an eye on your timing there.
I know.
We might not do all 3. Okay, so the first one is fairly simple.
Well, and it's what should I expect from my broker? But before we get to the answer from Julie, please remember you guys can request I want to give you guys our real estate treasure map. Yes, the book is for sale on Amazon. And yes, if you want to spend $20 on buying it, you can. But I'd much rather just give it to you. And the real estate treasure map is your fill-in-the-blank business and life plan. This is what you need at any point in your real estate career to really set you in the right direction. It will help you cut through all the malaise, but what it'll do mostly, it's going to make it so that once you have your GPS coordinates set in place, you will know exactly how to get to where you want to go in your real estate business. It's called the Real Estate Treasure Map. It's kind of a cheesy name, but it really is apt named. So all you guys got to do is text 2021 to 855-685-1045. I'll say it slower. Text 2021 to 855-685-1045. Again, text 2021 to 855-685-1045. And we'll text you a link to the Real Estate Treasure Map as well as Think and Grow Rich for Real Estate. In addition to that, we're also going to have somebody call you and offer you a free coaching call with one of our new member coaches. So all of this costs you nothing. It's our way of saying thank you for being a loyal podcast listener. Many of you will become coaching clients. Some of you will then decide to take the next step and become become part of Julie and I's EXP group. If you'd like to talk to Julie and I about Julie and I being your personal sponsors at EXP Realty, just text me directly. This is a separate text number. If you want to join EXP and you're looking for the right sponsor, just text me directly at 512-758-0206. 512-758-0206. So, Julie, the first question is, and this is a mailbag question, and we've gotten this question a lot, again, because the huge amount of new agents getting into the business, is what should I expect from my broker?
Yeah, what should you expect from your broker? What a great question. So I'm almost easier to say what not to expect to answer that question. First point is, it is not your broker's job to provide, let's start positive. It is your broker's job to provide legal place for you to do business. That is their job. To handle earnest money deposits and to pay you on time. But that's it. Those three things.
Yep.
That's their job.
That is legally the job.
That is legally their job.
And I want to really underline this. How many real estate licenses do you have, my dear?
I don't even know, a whole bunch of them.
3, right?
Yeah.
And how many broker's licenses do you have?
1.
1. Okay. And all the state licensing and pre-licensing and post-licensing that you've taken in the 3 different states in which you have licenses, that is basically what a broker's job is.
That's your job. Now, there's a lot of other words around that in the training, of course. But the bottom line is, it's your broker's job to provide a legal place for you to do business, handle earnest money deposits, and pay you on time. And you know what's amazing about that, Tim? I think we should probably add in to maintain E&O insurance.
Yeah.
But beyond that.
But in some states, that's not even...
That's true. That's not even required.
Isn't that crazy?
Shocking.
It's shocking.
Okay. But, I've had calls with coaching clients where their brokers aren't even paying them on time, which boggles the mind. So
well, the solution, by the way...
Change brokers.
It's change brokers. But really, where you should go with all this is it's not your broker's job to make you successful. It's not your broker's job to make you work. It's not your broker's job to teach you any sales skills. It's not your broker's job to give you leads. It's merely your broker's job because in many states, there has to be a broker for every sales agent. So that's what your broker's job is. And then your broker is held responsible for your paperwork and your agency forms and all that.
And you behaving ethically.
Yeah.
But it's not your broker's job to provide you leads. Any of the things that Tim said, it is your job. Okay, it's not your broker's job to transaction coordinate, put out fires, or negotiate for you. It's not even their job to train you up.
Nope.
Okay, so stop having those expectations and you can stop being disappointed.
And so if your question then is, what is my broker's job? It's virtually nothing. That is their legal responsibility to you. And if you want to get into the weeds, it's why is it that the brokers don't take more, or don't hold their agents more accountable? Well, there's a very simple answer. Is because, frankly, many of you don't want to be held accountable. That's really the main answer. But the other answer is because you're independent contractors. You're not an employee of the broker.
They're actually not legally allowed to hold you that accountable.
That is the essence of it. If a broker starts treating you as an employee in states like California, where they start telling you to show up and do certain things around a certain schedule, then hypothetically someone could make a claim that broker is treating them like an employee, and then they've got all kinds of other ancillary problems. So the reality of it is the broker has been essentially trained to do as little as possible so that there's the least likelihood that the broker will ever be accused of treating those agents like employees. And I know that sounds like semantics, but unfortunately, guys, that is the reality that we're in. So understand that it's your job to make you responsible. It is your job to learn how to sell. It is your job you hire a coach to help you hold yourself accountable, obviously. It's your job to learn how to do all the things necessary for you to be successful in real estate. And honestly, it's not your broker's job even to mentor you, even to help you fill out a form. So you guys got to be really, really clear on that. Now, obviously, you can join a broker that has those ancillary services, has overlays to the minimum standards that's required for him or her being a broker. Like eXp Realty, when you're a new agent and you join, you're given a mentor, basically, for your first 3 transactions. You choose a sponsor at eXp that's going to help you along the way. So there's and a lot of other brokerages operate the same way. So just choose wisely, and then talk to other agents, new agents if you're a new agent, or if you're switching, if you're in a real estate agent now and you're in a brokerage that's not providing any support, and you want to go to a brokerage that's, essentially creating a working environment that's something that's going to be more conducive to your success, then you also want to, maybe gravitate in that direction, guys. And bottom line is your success is your responsibility, nobody else's.
If it's meant to be, it's up to me. That's
Always.
what you replace complaining about your broker with. If it's meant to be, it's up to me. That means you're in control.
All right, Julie, the next question that we received quite a few times in the past maybe month is how do I raise, and different ways they ask this question, but how do I raise my average sale price?
Well, so fortunately for all of you guys, or probably 95% of you, the market is doing this for you currently. Okay, there's not a lot of professions where what you get paid follows up, with the market, right? So if your average sale price last year was 400, it might be 500 or 600 this year, and you're still getting paid off that percentage. So the market is largely helping you with this, but let's set that aside for a second. There's 3 main ways, and here's the key to happiness in raising your average sale price. Do all 3. Don't just choose one. So point A, yes, socially network your way in, join the country club, do events. I'm thinking about one of our coaching clients in Laguna Beach that does like the beach cleanup and the farmer's market and all that stuff.
Let me interject here. We're not speaking from theory here. Julie and I actually did this.
Yeah.
And when we originally started selling real estate, our first year in the business, in our early 20s, we sold 103 houses. Our close and pendings were over 100 units. Broken all records for first year sales success, and I believe that record still stands. Well, that's quite a feat, right? Well, before you give us too much credit, we really didn't know what we had done that until the year was almost over because we weren't tracking. But that aside.
And our average sale price was based largely on first-time buyer stuff.
Exactly. And that was the point I was trying to make. So Julie and I got started in an area called Clintonville and, Worthington and Central Ohio and Beachwald. And those were, first-time homebuyer type price ranges. But after our 3rd or 4th year in the business, we were ready for a new challenge. And so we literally picked up our business. We kept the original business going, and then we moved across town to this area called New Albany Country Club, where the average sale price was probably closer to $1 million. And so we took our sales skills and success from the previous market, and then we adapted them to the luxury market, one of the most expensive markets at the time in Ohio. It probably still is. And we are successful there as well. Bottom line being, you can move up market. And these were essentially the 3 things we did that made it so that we had a good foothold in that new market.
Yeah, so I remember before we even moved our house there, we would go on walks there. We would get to know, the walking trail and the golf course and the country club, and we would go to events and meet people there and do social things like wine tastings. And,
we'd go out and park our car, and we'd literally walk around the New Albany Country Club. We'd walk around a walking path. I don't even know how long it was. Long. Yeah. And we'd walk around. We'd look at the houses in the backyards. We'd say hello to people. We just basically, we were just trying to breathe the air because, that's...
Well, we didn't grow up like that, so we had to try and integrate.
Exactly.
The equestrian events and all of that kind of stuff that you can go
Charity
to.
Events.
Even if you don't live there, you can do some of the events. So socially network your way in. Now, that by itself is not predictable or duplicatable. I cannot tell you exactly what day that will start working for you. So you can't just do that. You have to also do these other things. Go
Julie,
ahead.
it really does make sense, and maybe this isn't something that a lot of them are going to want to hear. But if you don't live in the market, if you're wanting to go up market, is that your 3rd point? Oh, sorry, I'm not going to step on Julie's 3rd point. Sorry.
So,
but I mean, the socially networking your way into things really will only work if you live there. And
it's so much easier if you live there, especially if you have kids and the kids are networking for you. You're doing kid stuff.
If you don't live in, for example, New Albany Country Club, and you're trying to socially network at the New Albany Country Club, and you don't live there, they're going to block you from basically having any kind of real.
Sure. Well, even look here. I mean, if you don't live in our current neighborhood, it's pretty hard to
people naturally. I remember when Julie and I were just any place. You guys can experience this too. People will try to, the modern way of thinking of it is tribing up. But if you're trying to, infiltrate, let's say, a new market where the average sale price is higher, people are going to try to find out if you live there. And if you live there, they're going to assume you have similar values.
Yeah, are you one of them?
Right. Are you one of them? And if you're not, they're not necessarily going to want to, it's going to be harder for you to buddy up to them. You can do it eventually, but it's not going to be as easy as if you actually physically lived there.
That's right. So let's see, point number B, and here's the rub. Here we are again. Prospect your way in. That's right. For sale by owners do exist in luxury markets. Expireds. Nextdoor.com has been really good for some of our coaching clients lately, Tim. This is actually the most efficient with the fastest results. While we were getting to know those neighborhoods, we were also expired hunting.
Oh, hell yeah. We expired hunted every morning. And as a matter of fact, we got that's really how we got our, I remember you and I had 100 expireds all 4th quarter of the previous year. We had a whole bunch of contracts signed, and I remember how much fun it was putting them all for sale over like a 2-week span. And the old guard realtors there were just like aghast that we had taken all those listings that fast.
Yes.
And I remember one of them in particular was so shocked that we were able to take that many listings. He was respectful, but he was also kind of threatening and saying that we're going to start keeping our eye on you and not take you guys, basically know that you're going to be calling expireds and whatnot. Mm-hmm. And those well-entrenched entrenched realtors that never actually learn how to prospect, but are the upper end agents who are all socially connected, playing golf and whatnot. They're the ones that are the easiest to beat, because the sellers ultimately, when the market starts to transition towards a buyer's market, the sellers are going to be looking for somebody who's actually going to work to get the listing sold. And if they only know, Tony the realtor from playing golf, and they see Tim and Julie out there basically holding open houses and doing the real work of real estate, Tony might be their best friend, and he might be a great golfing partner, but he's not going to get the listing because they're not confident the house will sell. So they're going to start being more selective of who they're going to list with.
Well, and that's not even remotely speculative. That's where you read my mind. We literally heard that from the mouth of one of our best clients ever, Dr. Paula.
Yeah.
Who I can't remember he did have something expire, I think. And he said, he said something about, all I see these local agents, I only see them on the golf course. I see you guys. And I think he had responded from that big open that we had on Ely Court.
Who knows?
But the point was that he noticed, here's a guy in the community we had no previous relationship with, that in normal circumstances we never would have listed anything for because there was no connection, okay? Who noticed that we were working our butts off, and one thing led to the next, and one listing led to the next. But he literally said, all I see them doing is playing golf.
And a lot of the other expireds in the business we started to pick up after that, they would say iterations of, they take us for granted. Mm-hmm. They took my listing for granted. They didn't work the listing.
They were assumptive.
They didn't show the house. They didn't try to sell the house. They were just putting it in the MLS, and then we can tell you so many funny stories, guys. But the
luxury agents really are fairly easy to compete against.
They are the easiest to compete against. Not in all markets, obviously, but for the most part, if you want to know where you can, once you perfect your skill set or even get good at your skill set with how to list properties, and you go to one of these luxury markets, that's where you can clean up. I mean, really, truthfully, because many of those agents, they're successful in those markets because of tenure. They've been there longer. Mm-hmm. They play tennis. They are maybe the husband
more socially embedded, probably.
Husband or the wives is somebody who's an executive, or those types of those are PTA, swim club. That's how they have their relationships, and you can do all that social stuff too. But in addition to that, if you actually are going to be a proactive lead generator, you will be shocked how fast you can actually how you can dominate the market. Rob Johnson in Greenwich, Connecticut.
Yeah,
we've coached him for 7 years. I didn't even realize that. Mm-hmm. He told me 7 years. I hadn't been keeping track, to be honest with you.
I keep track of him because I distinctly remember talking to him when Zoe was a baby and she's 7. That's how I know it was 7 years.
Yeah, and so Rob was new effectively in real estate, and now he's the #1 realtor in Greenwich, Connecticut, which is one of the most expensive real estate places on communities on planet Earth, and with absolutely well entrenched blue blood agents that go back to like the foundation of the United States.
Well, it's Greenwich, Connecticut. Come on, you can't go much more blue blood
than
that.
I mean, so Rob was competing against people who were related to like past presidents and stuff. I mean, it was ridiculous. And so why did he get the business? Why did they choose him? And he wasn't even American. He's British, for gosh sakes. The reason is because he outworked them. He would do things the other agents wouldn't. The other agents were jetting off to Paris for all of August. Guys, that's what rich people do, by the way.
Yeah, no, that's real.
We learned that when we lived in New Albany. They take entire months off and they go to Europe. I mean, come on now. So if you want to really get a hold in a marketplace, do what the other agents aren't willing to do, because they, essentially they're not that professional. Really,
it's true.
Yeah.
Well, and to some of our past clients' points, they do kind of take the business for granted after a while. So you can take advantage of that. And then the last point we've already talked about, move there and embed yourself in the community. To what Tim said, it's much easier when you're actually right there. You hear, but not every event is publicized. Some things are going to be on your neighborhood Facebook page or your next door page, where if you're not living in the community, maybe you don't have that membership. So it does definitely pay off to actually move there.
You have to make more of a commitment to a community personally when you're wanting to go upper end than if you were just selling normal sale price houses.
That's true. And one last thing, because I know you have to go, is be careful that you select with some knowledge behind you, because in most markets, there's a certain price range or area where it doesn't actually sell that well. You can actually go too high and have too many days on the market and too many demands. Now, that's not so true right now today with the hot markets.
Right.
But you do have to do a little bit of research before you decide, to pull up roots and move your whole family to one of these markets.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good point, because, for example, New Albany now has been in the doldrums forever.
Yeah.
So the area that, Julie and I basically went there just after the peak of what property values were doing there, and they had sort of leveled off, weren't really appreciating or inflating anymore. The sort of the big boom in New Albany is sort of coming to a slowing down. And New Albany was fed by prominently the Limited, so Limited brand, Victoria's Secret, Bath and Body Works, and there were a whole bunch of ancillary services, but they were all related to Les Wexner's. The Limited companies, yeah, of which, like I said, Abercrombie and Fitch, Lane Bryant. I mean, there were gazillions brands that he essentially had corporate headquarters right there, and most of those people lived in, guess where, New Albany Country Club. Well, as Wexner started to sell off those brands, and you guys know, essentially the Limited is. I don't even know I don't think it got sold. I don't even know.
I think he sold it too.
But when I go to the MLS, which I do occasionally, and I look to see what property values are doing, they're still selling for the prices that Julie and I were selling them for. When did we move out of New Albany? How many years ago?
2005.
Think about that.
But it is, some of it's starting to bounce back now that one of the record sales
That's true.
was in New Albany recently. But like always, it takes a while to get there with the rest of the country.
But the people that are moving and buying those luxury houses are people that are coming from California.
Yes,
because
that's
they're leaving with their equity and they're going to be virtual workers. So it's this new.
And you can buy way more house still in an area like Ohio if you're coming from California. I mean, we see that with lots of. I have a client in Paducah, Kentucky, seeing that.
But as far as that being a relo area, that area is pretty flat.
Yes,
I mean,
is true.
Really, if you look
well, so to your point, if we were looking to make a similar move now, and you were to look at in New Albany, and you would look at the average days in the market is probably higher than when we were starting to work there. And the other thing we didn't mention when we were moving there, we didn't just hunt expireds and socially, embed ourselves. We also were working with builders,
right,
as it was being built up, and that's a big advantage too in some of your up and coming areas.
Just to really make this point, because it's important, we moved from there, based on your math, 16 years ago.
Yeah,
does it seem like that long? No. Yeah, 16 years
probably
ago.
Not. Yeah.
So our house, 7334 Berkeley Square South, is probably worth exactly what we sold it for 16 years ago.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, and that is symptomatic of a lot of higher end markets. And we've told stories before about Muirfield, which was the previous New Albany, 10 years before New Albany. So all we're saying is do your research and don't overdo it. It's kind of like when you guys try and get into BPOs and REOs, you're like, well, I'm only going to do a BPO in a luxury market. Well, guess what? There aren't that many.
And
do your research.
That luxury market could essentially be flat. So again, do your research. That's really...
I kind of like almost like the under market. Like the executive
the
feeder market that's like for most people, depending on where you are, instead of going after 2 million, maybe the 550 to 750 works like this.
What we're talking about is you have your first time home buyer market, then you have your move up market, and then you have your next move up market. Mm-hmm. And then some people, not everyone, then will have a move up price beyond that.
Yeah, but some people will live in that second move up home forever.
Or the third,
or
right?
the third.
So but the first time home buyer market appeals to first time home buyers, but also downsizers. Mm-hmm. But so does that secondary market.
Well, there's more demand for that,
right?
And there's more ability to actually buy that, right? So as you go up market, there's the amount of people that can actually close for, especially today, for all cash.
Well,
dwindles.
But the reason is very academic, right?
Oh, sorry, that's my Facebook Live alarm.
Oh, you know what? We got to go, don't we? So.
Yep.
So everyone needs a house to live in, so that you're always going to have a steady supply of first time buyers,
which are also investors and downsizers and all those competing buyers.
People need more space, so you're always going to have that move up buyer, right? And then you have the people that then they move past maybe the 4-bedroom, 2.5 bath in that nice middle class area, and then they want to move to the city on the hill. Okay, and those are people that are going to basically be, more financially secure. Maybe they're in their 40s, and a lot of people that's the end of their moving spectrum.
That's where they'll raise their kids.
And then they downsize from there. Now there's several moves up from there in some market segments where then you go to the luxury buyer. And the New Albany Country Club area that we're describing was your luxury buyer. Mm-hmm. That's somebody that basically financially, obviously, is better off than the first 3 tiers of buyers. But that market is very fragile in many parts of the country because those people absolutely do not need to buy those houses.
Yep.
And so that becomes something that the people reward themselves with when they feel like they've succeeded.
And that does a lot better in hotter times,
exactly.
Right? Because to your point, right? Let's say that I've moved 3 times. I'm in my second move up house. I got plenty of space. I got my kids in good schools. I don't have to. There's no real have to move up to that luxury market. And that's one of the first things that you'll see when the market changes is that the average days in the market will start stretching out.
In that price point.
Right. You'll get more inventory. So it's something to keep track of. And I also recommend that you don't put all of your eggs in that basket. Even when we were in New Albany, we're still selling in Clintonville, Beachville, and Worthington.
Absolutely. Well, hopefully all this questioning, or rather the questions you guys asked, hopefully we're sufficiently answering them. We're going to pick up where we left off tomorrow. In the meantime, if you guys would like to get your free real estate treasure map, just simply text 2021 to 855-685-1045. Text 2021 to 855-685-1045. If you'd like to join Julie and I at EXP, please feel free to text me directly at 512-758-0206. In the meantime, you guys have a fantastic day, and we'll talk with you on the show tomorrow.
This program has been a presentation by Tim and Julie Harris, Real Estate Coaching. For more information on our real estate coaching and training programs, visit our website at timandjulieharris.com. Remember to tune in weekdays at noon for upcoming shows, and until next time, thank you for listening to Real Estate Coaching Radio with Tim and Julie Harris.
This podcast is a part of the C-Suite Radio Network. For more top business podcasts, visit c-suiteradio.com.